Let's say you want to pay for your kids' college tuition. So you decide to go and invest $7,500 into an index fund for the next 18 years. And you decide to put that money in a low-cost index fund that's going to return, let's say, 8% over each of those years. That's going to get you around $300,000 into that account. Now you tell me, which account would you rather have that money in? A 529 college account, a Roth retirement account, or a brokerage account? I know the answer to where I would want to have my money, but where would you want yours? Today in this video, we're going to talk about the difference between those two accounts, and we're going to talk about which one of those may be more beneficial to you. The pros, the cons, the good, the bad. Hopefully by the end of this video, you'll be able to answer where do you want your money, and maybe how do you want to invest for your children over the next 18 years. But before we start the video, go ahead and drop a like and comment down below on which one you would rather have your money in. Let's get started. First, let's talk about the differences in between these accounts. That 529 account is the traditional college account where you're going to be investing money into this account, and everything that you pay for with this account is going to be tax-free as long as it's educationally related. So you can pay for your kids' books, their tuition, dorm rooms at the school. Anything that's going to be related to your kids' education can be paid for tax-free with this account. A Roth account is going to be pretty different from this account. So it is going to be an after-tax account, meaning that any money that's going into this account has already been taxed, and it's going to be allowed to grow tax-free, even the capital gains, as long as you don't touch it before you're 59 and a half. However, there are some things in this account that are going to benefit you if you're trying to use it in order to pay for your kids' tuition or any other educational expenses. The final account is different from the first two. It's going to be a brokerage account, and it's also not traditionally seen as an account you pay for your kids' college tuition with, but you're going to have the most flexibility with this account. You can do pretty much anything. You can use it to retire early. You can just use it as a way to allow compound interest to help your money grow. This account is just going to be the most flexible, but you're going to get the least amount of tax breaks when it comes to a brokerage account. So now let's talk about some of the pros that's going to be associated with these accounts. The first one we're going to talk about is that 529 college account. So what are some of the pros? The first one is you are going to be able to get tax deductions whenever you file your income tax. So that may allow you to get some money back if you're in a lower tax bracket, or it just might reduce the overall amount of taxes you have to pay back at the end of the year. Anything that's related to your kids' education is tax free. That's a pretty huge benefit. Something that they added recently in 2024 is they're going to allow you to roll over up to $35,000 in that 529 plan into a Roth. So that means that $35,000 can then be used for your kids or maybe even yourself in their retirement age. So that money is going to continue to grow via compound interest, and they can use that money later when they retire in order to enjoy themselves the way that we want to. The 529 plan is also going to allow you to have higher contribution limits. Now, this is going to come into play if you have multiple kids. It allows you to invest up to $500,000. Now, this is going to vary per state, but that's about the most you're going to be able to invest in any state that you're in. Finally, a 529 plan is going to use the word educational use the most broadly. So, meaning more things are going to fall under that umbrella when it comes to educational use. You're going to get away with a little more than you can than if you try to use your Roth to pay for educational related expenses tax-free. So those are some of the benefits that you're going to get if you have a 529 plan. Now let's talk about some of the pros of the Roth account. So anything that you withdraw off of your principal out of this account is always going to be tax-free, because you got to remember, you've already been taxed on this money. So at any point you decide that you want to just withdraw your principal, you can use that for your kids' tuition, their books, their shoes, anything that they want, you can always use the principal on. Another benefit is that the Roth is not going to count against your kids if they're trying to apply for financial aid. So other accounts like the 529, they may count that as income for your children whenever they're applying for financial aid, but the Roth is not going to be used against your kids when they want to apply for things like financial aid. Another benefit to the Roth is you can use any money within your Roth for educational purposes, and you won't get hit with that tax penalty for withdrawing money early. Now, if you do touch the capital gains, it will be seen as earned income and your state might tax it. But you won't get penalized on any of that money if you can prove you used it for educational purposes. And then finally, whenever you invest in a Roth, you are going to have a huge array of things you can invest in. Whether that's if you want to put all of your money in Apple or Microsoft or Tesla, you have the opportunity to do that. You can pretty much invest in anything that you want to when it comes to a Roth account. And that may not be something you see whenever you're trying to invest that 529 plan money into individual stocks. So now, what are the pros of a brokerage account? Now, this account, like I said, is going to allow you to have the most flexibility. Again, any of the money that you invest, you can take that out at any time and use it for anything that you want to use it on. It's self-sponsored, meaning that there's no waiting time for you to take out your money. Now, yes, you're going to get hit with the capital gains tax, but after you pay that tax, you can use that money on anything you want to use that money on. Additionally, you also have no limitations on this account for what you want to invest in. So again, you can invest in anything you want to. Apple, Tesla, small stocks, it does not matter. It's your brokerage account. You can invest in anything that's able to be invested in. And then finally, there are no contribution limits, meaning you can invest $0 all the way up to $1 million. It does not matter. Any amount of money that you have available to pay for your kids' college, you can invest it in this account, and you can do it as long as you have the money available. So these are going to be the pros of a brokerage account. Now let's talk about the cons of each of these accounts. First, a 529 plan can get kind of iffy from state to state. So the plans aren't unilaterally matched across states. Some states might limit your amount you can invest to $250,000. Some states might define educational use differently depending on the state you're in. So you have to be very careful on what you want to spend that account on, because you might get hit with a tax fee on something that you thought you can use the account on. Another con, anything that's not educationally related is going to get hit with a 10% tax penalty, and it's going to be seen as earned income. So this is different from the other two accounts. So if you decide, man, I have extra money in that 529, I want to use it on something else, you are going to get hit with massive penalties. Also, within the 529 catalog, you are limited to what you can invest in. And again, sometimes this is limited per state. Sometimes this is limited via the company you create the 529 plan with. But normally, what you can invest in is extremely limited. The 529 plan can also count against your child whenever they're trying to apply for financial aid, right? So you may believe that you're going to be able to qualify for financial aid because you are under a certain income limit. But that school is going to look at the amount of money you have in that 529 plan, and they can deem you ineligible for financial aid if that plan has too much money in it. So you may want to think about that. If you're in a certain income range, you may not want to give your child the 529 plan because it's going to inhibit their ability to apply for financial aid. And then finally, and this is the biggest con against the 529 plan, you can only use it for educational purposes. So what if you save this money for 18 years and all of a sudden your kid says, I don't want to go into education, I want to be an entrepreneur, or I want to be an artist? The money in this account can't be used for anything else, and there's limits on how much you can transfer to different accounts. So unless you want to have huge, massive penalties, you're not really going to be able to use this money as freely and as easily as you would be able to use the money within those other accounts. So now the Roth is going to have some disadvantages as well. The biggest disadvantage with the Roth is you can only invest $7,500 per year for your child. So this is going to be a problem if you start to have 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe 5 or more kids. $7,500 may not be enough to cover all of those children's tuition. So if you have multiple kids, going and investing in the Roth for your kids' college education may not be the move for you. The second thing is that you can end up not being qualified to invest in a Roth if you make too much money. So if you're single and you make more than $140,000, or if you're married and you make over $230,000, that can prevent you from being able to invest in a Roth account. So you might already be eliminated if you're too high of an income earner. And thirdly, your capital gains can be taxed if you pay for your college tuition or any expenses for your child with this account. Remember, we said that you can always pull out your principal whenever you're getting money out of this account. But if you pull out your capital gains money from this account, you won't get hit with an early withdrawal fee, but that income will be seen as earned income. Thus, the state is still going to tax you on it. It just won't be an early withdrawal fee. So think about that. You're still going to be partially taxed for some of your money. So that might be a negative in comparison to the 529 plan. So what is the negatives associated with paying for your children's tuition with the brokerage account? First, you're not going to get a lot of tax breaks whenever it comes to this account. So you're not going to see a deduction on your income tax at the end of the year. You're not going to be able to go and pay for your kids' tuition tax-free. But then again, you have to think about these accounts separately. The 529 and the Roth doesn't give you a tax break on the principal. It's only going to give you a tax break on the capital gains. You're really only benefiting from those accounts when you have a large amount of capital gains and you want to save the tax within those ranges. So what are the cons when it comes to using a brokerage account? So let's think about it. The only real downsides to choosing a brokerage account for your kids' college tuition is that you're going to forego any sort of tax breaks, meaning that you're not going to see that tax break whenever you file for your income taxes. And also, you're not going to see a tax break whenever you pull money from the capital gains to pay for your kids' tuition. But keep in mind that both the 529 and the Roth doesn't cut you a tax break on the principal money. So that's going to be the same with your brokerage. Thus, the cons of a brokerage is you're going to miss out on some of those tax breaks. But then again, it gives you ability to be flexible. So thus those cons outweigh the pros. So what are the cons associated with a brokerage account? When you use a brokerage account for this type of thing, like paying for your kids' education, you are going to forego any tax breaks that you would get with those other accounts. So you're not going to get a tax break whenever you file for your income taxes at the end of the year. You're not going to get a tax break on your capital gains whenever you go to pay for that tuition. So if you are looking specifically for tax breaks whenever it comes to your kids' college tuition, then a brokerage account is not for you. Now that you know exactly what these three accounts are about, the brokerage, the 529, and the Roth, let's go back to the original question. If you had $300K in an account, which account would you want to be in? The 529, the Roth, or the brokerage? For me personally, I want my money to be in the brokerage because I cannot tell the future. What if my kid does not want to go to college? What if he doesn't want anything to do with education and he'd rather go to be a chef, or maybe he wants to go be an artist, or maybe he just wants to go and take a leap year and explore the world? What am I going to do with that 529 account if that's the case? I'm going to be stuck with an account that I can't truly use. And the same thing with the Roth. Yes, I can pull out my principal, and yes, I can give that to my child in his retirement years, but what am I going to do for my child in the present? I can't truly do anything with that money. So for me personally, what I'm doing is investing my money in a brokerage account, meaning I can be flexible. Anything that my child wants to do, I can help invest in. If he needs money for a down payment on his house, I can help him get that home. If he wants to take time to experience life, I can help him enjoy those things. The brokerage account gives me the flexibility to not only pay for college, but it also gives me the ability to help make any of their dreams that they're chasing come true. So comment down below on which account that you think works best. I understand which one has the most tax benefits, but me personally, I like the freedom and flexibility of doing what I want to do with my money whenever I want to do it. So hopefully this gives you a little bit more insight on how you should be saving money in order to pay for your children's tuition in the future. Thank you for coming. I'll see you next time.